Hi, everyone. So I hope you had a nice weekend disconnecting, hopefully, from your computers as we've been on them for a while. I want to remind you that today's class is only 30 minutes, so this should take you about 30 minutes to complete. I'm going to start by actually reviewing the exit ticket. So let the function y equals 500 minus 25x represent your leftover budget y after a certain number of days. So we're asked when we run out of money. Well, when we run out of money, that means that our y equals 0, and therefore we are finding the x-intercept. So now we can algebraically solve it. 0 equals 500 minus 25x. I'm actually going to just bring the 25x to the other side of the equation, get 25x equals 500, and therefore x equals 20. So after 20 days, we run out of money. Hopefully you wrote a sentence. Now on the other is how much originally have you spent? So this is saying originally we haven't spent anything yet. So no days have passed, so x equals 0, which is therefore calculating the y-intercept. This is a little easier to calculate. Y equals 500 minus 25 times 0. So y equals 500 original to spend. So that's question 1. Question 2 asks us to find the slope. And so I'm going to start by just labeling x1, y1, x2, y2. And so I'm going to start and say m equals a negative 10 minus a negative 6 all over a negative 3 minus 5. This ends up becoming a negative 10 plus 6, which is negative 4, all over a negative 8. Negative over negative is a positive. Don't forget to simplify. So our final answer is a half. You must always, always simplify. Last but not least, I'm going to actually use our equation for slope to help me with this question. So I'm going to start plugging everything in. I know the m, which is negative 3/4. I know that the y2 is 8, and my y1 is minus a negative 1. My x2 is an r, my x1 is a 7, so minus 7. Well, this ends up being able to simplify to negative 3/4, all equals 9 over r minus 7. Now, there's different ways about doing this, but I'm going to solve it using a proportion, and therefore I can use cross multiplication and rewrite this as actually negative 3 all multiplied by r minus 7 equals a positive 36. Divide both sides by negative 3. Get r minus 7 equals 12. Add 7 to both sides and get r equals 19. Oh, I made an error there. That's a negative 12. So therefore, when I add 7 to it, I get a negative 5. We all make errors, but hopefully we catch them. Now, as I said, this is not the only way to solve it, but it is one way. So if you have any questions on that, make sure you message me. Let's go on with today's lesson. So for our do now, it's going to be a little bit of an exploration. Now, slope-intercept form is one of 3 special forms that we're going to learn this year. And as a reminder, here's slope-intercept form. Our goal is to figure out what m is and what b is. The x and y, that's our variables. Those are the things that are going to change. There's infinite possibilities. So we're not trying to find x, y. We're trying to find m and b. So here are 2 explorations that you're going to do. And you're going to try both of these and answer them in this play posit. So read them and try your best. I will go over them afterwards. Now that you've had an opportunity to try it yourself, let's see how you did. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And our goal is to find m, which as I see is negative 4. And our goal is to find b. Well, this ordered pair 0, negative 8 is my y-intercept. So this is -8. The only reason why is because this ordered pair is my y-intercept. You can't just plug any y in there. So my equation is y equals a -4x, and I could just write -8. I don't need to write plus a -8. So that's my equation. Now we're looking here and we're asked, what is the slope and the y-intercept? Again, the slope is the coefficient of the x term as long as we're in the correct form, which we are. We're y equals mx plus b. So our b happens to be 6. So therefore, our slope is 2/3, and our y-intercept is a 0,6. Remember, write it as an ordered pair. I have one more exploration for you. So here's the third exploration. You are given the function, and I ask you to graph it. So you are going to graph this with no calculations. Use the information you can pull out. I'm going to pause it, and we'll see how you can do. So let's see how you did. Well, again, taking a look at this, my slope is 3. My y-intercept is -6. So I have a slope of 3. That's the same thing as 3/1. I'm going to want that for graphing. And a y-intercept of 0, -6. So here's 0, -6, which is down here. I'm going to use the slope of rising 1, 2, 3, running 1. And there's my graph. Don't forget to draw the arrows. Now let's keep going. So we are looking at writing linear equations using information and specifically in slope-intercept form. We're going to put this into context at one point, but right now we're just looking at the beauty of mathematics. So here's our first example, and make sure you write this down as well. As a reminder, all of these notes will be uploaded. So we have a linear function that goes through these ordered pairs. Well, I think to myself, I need m, which I'm not given, and I need the y-intercept, which is b, which I am given. It's right here. Again, 0,7, that's the y-intercept, so b is 7. Well, I can calculate the slope. Just because I'm not given it doesn't mean I can't find it. So let's calculate it. I'm going to do 7 minus -2 all over 0 minus 5, and I get a 9 over -5. Well, now I can write my equation y equals a -9/5 x plus 7. So if I'm not given the information, I have to do something to try to find the information. And that's going to be important for example 2. Well, in example 2, I'm not given either piece of information. Slope, hopefully, we'll be able to see that we can find pretty easily. We can just calculate it. So -2 minus a -7 all over 6 minus -4. Well, that becomes a 5 all over 10. I simplify it 1/2. So now I'm at this part, y equals 1/2 x plus b. And I think to myself, how do I find b? Well, if I knew what y and x were, I could solve for b, because then I use inverse operations and I solve for b. Well, thankfully, we were given 2 ordered pairs that have an xy pair. It doesn't matter which one we use. We just have to use one of them. I'm going to use the one on the left. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So all of a sudden, I could say, okay, -7, that's y, equals 1/2 times -4 plus b. Well, that's -7 equals a -2 plus b. I'm going to add 2 to the other side and get b equals -5. I'm going to prove to you that it doesn't matter the ordered pair. Let's use the other one. Y is -2 equals a 1/2 times x, which is 6, plus b. That's a -2 equals 3 plus b. Subtract 3, b equals -5, because the y-intercept is the y-intercept. So my final equation, y equals 1/2 x minus 5. use these two examples as your references for your next practice. So here are your first two practice. I'm going to pause it and give you the opportunity to try them. Oops, sorry about that. To try them on your own. So here are the two answers to those practice problems. Compare them with yours. Notice that in the first one, I started by finding the slope. I wrote that into the equation here. And then from there, I used both ordered pairs to prove to you that in both cases, I get 53. Now, you only have to do one. You don't have to do two. If you want to check yourself, use the second one. And there's my final answer. In the second practice problem, I was given the slope, so I got to go straight to substituting that in for m, and then using the ordered pair, -6, 3, to plug it in for x and y, finding that b, our y-intercept, is 1, and there's our ordered pair. So that's our first two practice. Now I have two more practice for you. So here you have the graph. I want you to again write in slope-intercept form the equations that represent these functions. Think about how you can find the information you need. So for these, there's less calculating and more actually just counting. So right here, we can see that our y-intercept for this first one's -5. I'm then going to count the slope and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 over 1, because that's the next point. So my slope is 7. So y equals 7x minus 5. Over here, my y-intercept is a -4. Now I'm going to find my other point. Let's see, where do I go nicely through? Ah, there's a point I go nicely through. And I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And I go over 1, 2, 3, 4. So m is down 7 over 4. So y equals -7/4 x minus 4. And those are my equations.